Welcome to the Seahawks Podcast with your hosts, Adam Emmert.
Before you know it, you're going to click on the Bleacher Report app and your whole device is just going to burst into flame and it's going to yell, fire!
And Brandon Schultz.
When has Russell Wilson ever had a bad stretch of games where you go, who's our backup? We should consider putting in our backup. No, that's never happened.
Go Hawks!
Welcome to episode 16-0 of the Seahawks Podcast. I'm Brandon Schultz of the Military Seahawkers, and joining me, my good buddy, Adam Emmert. And yes, Adam, you heard it right. It's 16-0. It's not episode 160, because we're talking about the Seahawks going 16-0 this week.
You're a giant nerd. We're talking about 16-0. That's what you want to talk about today? 16 wins, 0 losses. Nobody's ever done it. Well, I guess the Patriots did it, but didn't finish the perfect season. Yeah, this is what you want to talk about today.
Adam, it's the middle of the offseason. We're coming up on episode 160.
Okay.
This is the perfect time to make the case for going 16-0.
Yeah, this isn't ridiculous at all. But, all right, let's make the case then. Let's make the case. That's fine. See, I'm so sleep deprived today that, you could have about sold me on anything. Because I had 2 magpies that have now moved into my neighborhood, Brandon, and their favorite early morning ritual is to sit right outside my bedroom window. Bah! 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 All catfish morning. Couldn't be a couple chickadees, a little chickadee. Nope, none of that. Nope, got to be 2 squawky magpies. And the thing about it is, I can't even go out and shoot them because they're freaking protected.
I know.
For no reason, they're everywhere. I don't know why they're protected.
I don't know either.
Yeah, so that's my conundrum this morning. So, all right, if the magpies have deprived me of enough sleep that I'm game. I'm game for your,
you're ready.
16-0. Okay.
Well, essentially what we're going to be talking about is what has to go right for this team in order to complete the perfect regular season. And so we're going to be talking about that. Ross Bell from the UK Seahawkers, the Pedestrian Podcast, is coming on to talk about his way too early 53-man roster. And that's a good discussion coming up. Also, some news we'll get into a little bit. And I want to thank Pro Football Focus for helping me diagnose why I dislike list season. I've figured it out.
They're helping you out with this right now?
They're helping me figure out my problems.
Okay, I have some Pro Football Focus stuff to throw out there yet today as well. So, okay, cool. This is all going to work out.
This works out. All right,
synergy. Yeah.
Well, let's start with the trivia question, Adam. How many NFL teams have finished the regular season with a perfect record?
2
since the Super Bowl. But how many NFL teams?
Oh, since you're talking about pre-Super Bowl era?
Pre-Super Bowl era.
And how many games were they even playing there? 12?
Like
weren't those 12 game seasons?
9 maybe.
I don't know. I'm going to go with 7 teams.
4 teams overall.
Okay.
I think the 2 you nailed, 72 Dolphins, obviously, 2007 Patriots that you mentioned, and then the 1934 Chicago Bears.
Oh, how did I forget that?
I don't know.
Legendary.
And the 1942 Chicago Bears.
Oh man, yeah. Apparently, I'm sleeping on those epic Bears teams that were around during my great grandfather's era of football.
Yeah, it was an 11-game season in the 40s, and let's see, they finished 13-0 back in 1934. So
wow,
yeah,
amazing. They have like 5 other teams to play in 1934. I don't even know how big the league would have been.
6 teams, yeah.
Jesus, that's even before the AFL merger, like all that stuff, man. Those don't count. We can't even bring those up.
I will, and I did.
Okay, all right. Is that you trying to say that it's even more plausible than I think that there's been 4 teams to do it?
No.
Oh, okay.
That shows you how rare it is.
Yeah, it's only 2 teams that do it post Super Bowl era.
Only 2 teams, and only one of those teams went all the way. That was the 72 Dolphins. Man, how wouldn't you love it, though, Adam, if the Seahawks could finish that and just shut the 72 Dolphins up for good?
Oh, finish an entire perfect season?
Yes.
Okay, if they did it, sure, I would enjoy that very much, mainly because I am so over Mercury Morris, it's not even funny.
He hypes it every year.
I know.
Every single year.
Yeah, so they could keep that champagne on ice. That'd be great. But I will tell you straight up, I do not want the Seahawks to go 16-0 during the regular season. I don't want that to happen because then all of the hoopla surrounds the team. Just remember that 07 Patriots team and how much hype and all that crap that surrounded that team, that whole perfect record thing. Just think about the Warriors the other year in the NBA when they broke the 72 win record and how much hoopla was around that. It's a distraction. It's no bueno. I don't like it.
Adam Emmert is anti-hoopla.
Believe it or not. Yeah. Write it down. Anti-hoopla.
Well, I can hear a lot of people out there saying too at the same time, why are you even talking about 16-0? Because we've never even had a team that went 5-0.
Right. Yeah. I think those are all very fair critiques. Absolutely.
But I do think it's worth bringing up is, what has to go right for this team to actually complete a perfect regular season, because there's a lot of things. Week 1, we take on the Packers, and right there, a road game against the Packers where we haven't won since the very beginning of the Mike Holmgren era. You lose there and your hopes are dashed. So when you're talking about things that have to go right, for starters, you have to beat the Packers on the road in week 1, something you haven't done in over 10 years.
Yeah, you think there's a little energy at Lambeau for the home opener every year?
Yeah, there's probably a little energy.
I mean, I guess so. And then let us not forget that the worst loss in the Russell Wilson era occurred at Lambeau Field last year.
Right.
We got smoked.
That's true. But I think back to getting, not necessarily smoked on the road, but losing to Atlanta in the playoffs like we did back in 2012. The Seahawks came back and they had that kind of revenge mentality in mind. You have to think that same mentality applies after being the one team to really smoke them. Was that the first time that Russell Wilson even didn't have a lead through an entire game? Weren't we talking about how crazy it was that Russell hadn't, he's had a lead in every game that he's played as an NFL quarterback and even going back to college. And that was the one game where things really got away.
Yeah, not having lost by more than 10 points.
Right.
Things like that. Yeah, it did get away. Was that the first game we played without Earl back there? I can't remember for sure. It feels like it was something. Yeah, it was something in there. So, yeah, it's a new season. And coming out of training camp and all that, we all know that the Seahawks start slow every single year. So, yeah, you're right. If you're going to do it, you got to win the first one, obviously. And that might be one of the biggest hurdles going forward.
Well, and one thing that's really jumped out to me this past few weeks, Hawk blogger Brian Nimhauser has put out a couple articles really looking at the Seahawks and how they've kind of gotten away from some of their major philosophical things over the past couple of years. That offensive philosophy of making big plays and having a running game that works, because we didn't have that last season. And that's been kind of going downhill. Turnovers has been such a big thing for the Seahawks' success, and something that Pete Carroll preaches constantly. It's all about the ball. And turnovers has been a big factor. They're way down on the list compared to past seasons. Those types of things, takeaways need to improve for the Seahawks. The running game has to get back in order. And so I think Brian has absolutely nailed it by focusing on those types of topics on hawkblogger.com.
Yeah, philosophically speaking, as far as Pete Carroll's football philosophy, they definitely got away from what they like to do or what he's traditionally liked to do. And I think part of that is the idea that the season previous in 2015, Russell Wilson ended that season on an absolute tear. And when you looked at the upcoming 2016 season, the temptation is there, especially with a big new shiny contract and everything, to really turn it over and be more of a passing team. Now, one of the things that Hawk Blogger pointed out was even though last year their percentage of passing plays was much higher than it ever has been in the Pete Carroll era, it's still ranked fairly low compared to the rest of the league. So, but I do think that the signing of Eddie Lacy and some of the things that Pete Carroll has said are strong signals and indicators that they absolutely, one, see this problem, and two, are ready to go and recommit to that run game. And having Russell Wilson healthy at the beginning of the year, because he got dinged up so early last year, having him healthy should be a major factor in opening up the run game even more.
Another factor in opening up the run game, offensive line. And yes. I want to I looked at some advanced analytics on this, Football Outsiders, which I think their DVOA formula it ranks teams fairly well. And I think they got it mostly accurate because in terms of situational details, I think it matches up to what we've seen over the previous years. They look at the success of the power runs. They look at the ranking in terms of how often the run game gets stuffed. They look at second level, how well the running back does when he gets to the second level, and also how well the running back does in open field yards, and then how well the offensive line does in pass protection. These were kind of the 5 things that I looked at. And when you look at last season, their power run success was 27th in the league. They were stuffed. Their stuffed ranking was 30. There were only 2 teams ranked lower, Miami and Tampa Bay. So running backs getting hit in the backfield. We saw that a lot. And so it bears out in the ranking that we were toward the bottom. Second level open field yards, 18 and 15, kind of middle of the pack. And then pass protection. I was kind of surprised it was ranked this high, 25. Which was actually an improvement over 2015, strangely enough. But if you remember back to 2015, that first half of 2015 was so bad that even the second half, as well as it improved, it was tough to overcome as far as the list. They finished 30th overall in 2015.
So this is where you talked about Pro Football Focus a little earlier, and I said I had some Pro Football Focus stuff for you. Well, here we go. This shows how difficult it is to put statistics and all that to offensive line play.
Right.
And I mean, you talked about all the ways that Football Outsiders broke that down. Well, Pro Football Focus came out with their rankings of the offensive lines in football earlier this week. And lo and behold, the Seahawks were 32nd.
No way.
And and this is what they had to say about it. Even with the addition of Luke Joeckel, there's little reason to think this won't yet again be the worst offensive line in the NFL. They finished dead last a season ago in snap-adjusted run blocking grade and snap-adjusted pass blocking grade. Getting Pro Football Focus lowest graded left tackle, George Fant, out of the starting lineup should help, but it won't fix the unit overnight. So we agree on some things, me and Pro Football Focus. So you said that they were 25th, according to Football Outsiders, in their pass protection, where they were adjusting. They have their snap adjusted pass blocking grade here for Pro Football Focus, 32. Truth is probably somewhere in the middle, but it's bad. Okay, so you talk about things that need to go right to go 16-0. One of the things that needs to go right is you need to go from being the 32nd ranked offensive line to say something like, let's go with the 21st ranked offensive line. And according to Pro Football Focus list here, that's the Los Angeles Chargers. So let's take a look at who they have starting and just kind of go through the list. They've got Russell Okung. We know what he's all about. And he's an average left tackle at this point in his career. He's definitely not a world beater anymore.
The league's highest paid left tackle, I think.
I know, but that's what you have to pay to even get an average guy, it seems like, right? So a very average left tackle in Russell Okung. Matt Slauson at left guard, average dude. A guy named Spencer Pulley, which is a fantastic center name. I don't know where Spencer Pulley came from. It looks like he might be a rookie, but they have him ranked as the starting center. They have Forrest Lamp at right guard, another rookie.
Ooh.
And then Joe Barksdale at right tackle, again, a run-of-the-mill right tackle. And this is what they had to say about the Chargers' offensive line. Is it possible that the Chargers won't be dreadful once again on their offensive line? It's been 10 straight years that San Diego has its offensive line grade out below average, but it's possible that the move to Los Angeles will lift the curse. On paper, they should be massively upgraded with Russell Okung, Forrest Lamp, and Dan Feeney, who I've never heard of, all added this offseason. If you were to take Seattle's offseason with their offensive line and kind of put that description that I just read about the Chargers offensive line, couldn't that almost fit exactly the Seattle's offensive line? That it should be massively upgraded. They bring in a guy like Luke Joeckel, a couple of rookies and all that, and that would take them to be the 21st offensive line. It's in range. It's in range. This could be it.
Well, and we'll talk about with Ross coming up about why it's so difficult to diagnose even those 5 guys. because Seahawks are a little unpredictable.
Yeah, I'm just saying that description I read about the Chargers offensive line could fit the Seattle offensive line pretty easily. And if that's the case, that means they absolutely could just go from being, and that's all it needs to go right for them to go 16-0 is going from the worst to just a below average offensive line, to the upper part of the below average.
Yeah. And really you could argue that the pass protection isn't a huge deal because, what did you hear from the analysts the most? Russell Wilson, he makes up for a lot of the stuff that the offensive line doesn't do well. Well, if you look at the Football Outsider numbers over the past 4 years, pass protection in 2013 ranked number 32. In 2014, ranked 24. In 2015, 30, as I mentioned, and then last year, 25. So 2014, when they went to the Super Bowl, and 2016 last year were two of their best years by Football Outsider measurements. The difference is when you go and over to the running game and see how successful the Seahawks have been within the running game. Now, 2013, I was surprised to see their power success all the way down at number 32. But you think back to 2013 and who they had on the offensive line. Carpenter wasn't quite at his best year. Sweezy was playing inside, and I think that was just his second year in 2013. And just learning the position. You count on those guys up the middle for really having success in your power game. And then from 2013 to 2014, they went to number 2 in successful in the power run. And if you remember Carpenter, that was one of his best years. Sweezy was starting to look like a serviceable guard. Britt was a rookie that year. And so kind of interesting to think about there. But Unger and Okun, some of their better years were in 2014 too. So I think and then the stuffed ranking in 2014 and 2015 was 6th and 5th. So in the top 10, the running backs not getting hit in the backfield. I think that's a big key to having success in the running game.
Yeah, and that would be huge, especially when you consider that Thomas Rawls and Eddie Lacy are both great at breaking tackles.
Right.
I mean, they're both really great at that, and especially when they get a little bit ahead of steam. So if you can make it so that they're breaking that first tackle a yard past the line of scrimmage instead of a yard and a half behind it, that's a gigantic difference, and it just changes the entire way that you play offense, because then instead of being in 2nd and 12, 2nd and 13, now you're in 2nd and 8 to 2nd and 7, which means if you run the ball again, you're back under a 3rd and 5, and under that is completely and utterly manageable every time, rather than being in 3rd and forever, which then again compounds your problem when it comes to the offensive line and trying to pass protect.
Because everybody knows that you're passing at that point. And when pass protection is something you tend to struggle with, teams are going to be going after you.
So the efficiency of the running game, absolutely 100% is one of the keys to go 16-0, no doubt about it. To me, Brandon, another huge key, and this is something that we saw last year and really was brought to light. We ask about what players can you not live without on this team. And one of them that we found out that we cannot live without is Earl Thomas. Yeah. So one of the keys to me to go 16-0 is a healthy Earl Thomas throughout the season.
Absolutely. And key, Earl Thomas is a big part of that turnover, being able to get turnovers, because after he went out, there were no turnovers by this defense.
Right. And the points per game that they allowed went up from something like 16 to over 20, just with the exit of Earl Thomas. That's a huge difference. So that's when you talk about who can you lose and who can't you lose. Like, we've shown we can play without Cam Chancellor. It's not quite as good, but it's not as big a precipitous drop-off as it is with when Earl Thomas went out. Now, we've never really played without Richard Sherman, but with that said, I feel like there's enough talent back there that, that's just one side of the field, and especially if Earl is still your guy. Like, if you had to make me choose to lose Sherman or Thomas, I would take Sherman off the field.
Yeah.
I think that's a more survivable injury. So I think there's, out of all the players on defense, that's even taking Bobby Wagner into account. And we went without Mike Bennett a little bit last year, still able to perform. Mm-hmm. We've got other guys. So to me, that is the biggest key. Is really, it's two guys, right? And one is Russell Wilson, the other is Earl Thomas. Got to have those two dudes.
We haven't really gone along, any length of period without Richard Sherman on the field. So it is difficult. No. I feel like the measure of having one of those two guys off the field is probably pretty marginal, but I do agree with you that Earl Thomas probably makes a little bit, slightly more difference.
Right.
But I think either one of those guys off the field, and for the defense to really be clicking. Yeah. You need both those guys out there.
Well, clearly, I'm just saying, out of all the dudes, if you had to like
Cam Chancellor in there, when you have three future Hall of Famers potentially,
correct.
That's when your defense is at its best,
right? So I just tried to whittle it down to one dude, to make it a key. And yeah, I mean, I've obviously I want all three of them on the field every snap, that they can play, that they're needed on the field. That's what I want.
Well, we mentioned how it is tough to go 16-0, and let's look back at the 2013 season, because really that was the best team the Seahawks have put on the field, right, in 2013. Mm-hmm. And just looking back to that season, starting off in week 1 on the road against the Panthers, the Seahawks won 12-7. It was a close game right. to start the entire year. And you talked about kind of slow starts to the season. But, that was one of the better starts for the Seahawks. And week 4, it took Richard Sherman to intercept a pass at the end of that game against the Texans to send us into overtime. And then the first loss in the first half of the season was against Indy. And that was on the road and had a pretty solid lead going into the fourth quarter. And Andrew Luck able to bring the Colts back in that game. Mm-hmm. But yeah, the first half of the season, that was their best start, 7-1 season in the first half. And that's how many close games there were.
Yeah, this team has always played that way. And that's a little bit of the style where it comes to running the ball a lot and chewing up clock. You're not going to be the most prolific scoring team and playing solid defense. So yeah, the games are going to be close. And that's the whole idea. Try to be in every game so that when it comes down to a few clutch plays, you've got those guys with the mentality that are able to go out and make those clutch plays more times than they don't. That's a huge part of this. I think another key to going 16-0, Brandon, when you were talking about some of those games, those close games early on in the season from that season, is the idea that the Seahawks don't play down to their competition.
Right.
There's some easier games on this schedule. They need to not play down to their competition, which they do a lot and most chronically against the Los Angeles Rams.
Right.
So one of the keys to going 16-0 is for the Rams curse to have left with Jeff Fisher. We need that mojo of being able to beat us twice a year for no stinking reason to have left the Rams with Jeff Fisher's departure. That's one of the keys.
I think 2013 was the last season that we were able to beat the Rams twice, and it was really close in that first game with the Rams in St. Louis. 14-9 was the final score. And you remember the Rams had first and goal inside the 10 with about 40 some seconds left on the clock in that game. And Russell Wilson had one of his worst offensive performances, only 135 yards in that game. I think Golden Tate's TD was the only highlight on offense. So yeah, getting by the Rams.
Yeah, that's definitely one.
Talk about playing down to the competition. The Bucs came into Seattle that year. They were up 21-0 before Seattle.
I'll never forget that game, man. I'll never forget that game because I was driving back to Missoula with Jared as that game was going on, and we were out of cell range for quite a ways because we were going up a highway where there's no cell coverage. We pop into one little town, a little pocket of cell coverage, looked it up, and they were down by 21 points at halftime. And all I had to hear was Jared chirping for the rest of 2.5 hours as we drove the rest of the way until we pulled into town. And guess what?
Yeah.
We had won.
Yeah, that was one of my favorite comeback wins, although I would have preferred to have been more of a blowout than have to worry about a 21-point comeback against the Bucs.
For sure.
And then the other thing you need is football luck, because think about that Week 16 loss in 2013 to the Cardinals, where the team was driving in the fourth quarter, and you had that pass to Doug Baldwin just ricochet off the ground and hit his arm. I'm still convinced that it hit the ground first. The ball goes up in the air, and they call it an interception for the Cardinals as they catch the ball off the ricochet. So you need the football luck.
Football luck is definitely one of them, and that's kind of the topper on the cake to me. I mean, not only do you have to do everything that's within your control really, really well, but then the gods have to smile upon thee and make it happen for you too. So that's why when you said you wanted to start out the show with this, and it was your idea, and I was dubious about it, is for that very reason. It's really freaking hard. It's really freaking hard. I honestly, if about half of those things go right, I think you're looking at a number 1 seed in the NFC and a solid chance to go to the Super Bowl. I feel like that is far more likely than going 16-0.
Well, if you look even in the 2007 Patriots perfect season, right? Now, most of their games were blowouts, but they did have 4 games where they were down in the fourth quarter. And in one of those games, they were down more than 10 points to the Indianapolis Colts, the Peyton Manning-led Indianapolis Colts. Yeah. And unfortunately for Indy, they had a terrible defense, and or else they could have killed that perfect season just in Week 9 against the Patriots. But Tom Brady able to make 4 comeback victories for the team in that season.
Yeah, that's Tom Brady. You know what I mean?
With Randy Moss.
Right, exactly. A rejuvenated Randy Moss at that point too. So, yeah, it's hard to do, man.
It is. It's hard to do. And, on that note, I did see that Elliot Harrison of NFL.com, he talk about list season. He had the list of the 5 most talented teams of all time. Did you see this?
I did not see it. I saw the headline, but I did not read it. Just didn't get a chance to.
Number 5 on the list of the top 5, the 2013 Seahawks.
I think that's an appropriate spot for that team, because I think a lot of the ones I'm guessing are pre-salary cap era teams. That would be my guess.
They did kind of go in eras of teams. They had a team from the 2000 era. They had a team from the 90s, a team from the 80s, and a team from the 70s.
Oh, okay. Well, then it's going to be, I don't know in what order, but the team from the 70s will be the Steelers. The team from the 80s will be the Niners. The team from the 90s will be the Cowboys. And the team from the 2000s will be the Patriots.
You nailed it.
Yeah, I did. Okay.
And the number 1 team was the 74 Steelers. Number 2 team was the 92 Cowboys. And people argued, that the 77 team for the Cowboys was the best team in franchise history. And I could definitely see that. Yeah.
The biggest argument on that to me would be that Roger Staubach is 10 times the quarterback that Troy Aikman ever thought of being.
And there were people, too, that argued that maybe the 92 team wasn't even the best 90s team for the Cowboys because Deion Sanders wasn't on that team yet.
I guess that 92 team was loaded.
I think coaching would have to play a part in it, too. And I think Jimmy Johnson with the 92 team was better than Barry Switzer with the 95 team and Deion Sanders.
Yeah, I don't think you have to go out too much on a ledge there. No. That's for sure to say that. Speaking of lists, Brandon, in talented rosters.
Okay.
Gary Bloom, part of the Seahawks podcast Ring of Honor.
Yes.
And Patreon donor. Posted an article that had been put up by ESPN. Apparently, it's an insider only, so I did not read the article because I'm not paying for your garbage. It was a article that says ranking NFL rosters 1 through 32, and the Seahawks, Brandon, come in number 11.
Yeah.
That's not taking backups into account. This is just starters.
This is part of my problem, and I hinted at it at the beginning of the show that. And I think Pro Football Focus works into this list because they used their grading scale to rank the teams in terms of their starting level talent. And one of the things that I've realized, one of the things that Pro Football Focus has made me realize is that part of my biggest problem with any of these lists, especially when they talk about their most talented, the most talented lists, grades do not equal talent. When you were graded in school, Adam, did your teacher grade you on how intelligent they thought you were, or did they grade you on how you performed on an exam?
Yeah, I'm going to go with exam, I guess. Hard telling not knowing what they were grading me on, man. I just know I didn't score highly. Let's put it that way.
Generally, they grade you on the exam. And so when you're adding up these Pro Football Focus grades, that's a grade based on performance. You're grading performance. You're not grading talent. And so to say that the Seahawks have the 11th most talented team, go ahead and think of how many potential future Hall of Famers are on the Seahawks team, and go look at any other team. See if you can find 4.
to further your point on that, Brandon, when you talk about talent in the most talented teams, let's use another list to refute this list. And if you look at the NFL top 100, look at how many players were on the top 100 from each team. And guess what you'll discover? You'll discover that the Seattle Seahawks leads the NFL with 8 players on the NFL top 100 list. That is number 1 in the league.
And 2 of their Pro Bowlers weren't even on that list with Jimmy Graham and KJ Wright.
So if you're looking at the most talented rosters, how can the team that has the most players on the list that is ranked on by the players about the most talented guys in the league, they have the most players on that list. There are only 11 on your other list here that is the most talented rosters in the league. That's ridiculous.
I agree. It makes no sense. And it just goes to show you that when talent is very subjective. And
Absolutely.
So that's why I think a lot of these lists like to use that word talent. But the problem is when you're when you have that performance-based element, performance is an yards is objective, the number of touchdown catches is objective. Those are actual numbers. But then when you start saying talent, well, you can skew those projections any way you want.
Sure. When you start looking at numbers, just like you said, was Earl Thomas any less talented this last season than he was the season before that? No. He just happened to play fewer games.
Right.
So the production down, talent the same.
Exactly. And players can get, they can lose some of their talent. They can gain talent through, through practicing.
Right. Well, they can gain skill. I don't know if it's talent. Again, then there's your definition. Like, what is talent?
Well, talent, the actual definition is aptitude or skill, a special aptitude or skill. So I think with practice, you can increase your ability.
See, so learn something new today.
You can get more talent.
All right. Well, there we go. See, the other day I learned it's octopuses. And today that I learned that skill is a part of talent.
Talk about talent. Ross Bell.
No kid,
of
man.
The Pedestrian Podcast.
Yeah, excellent podcast, excellent folks, excellent interview. I think you guys will enjoy.
All right, before we get moving on, if you want to help out the show while planning on which game you want to go to this upcoming season, check out Ticket Network at seahawkerspodcast.com/tickets. They have every single game up there on Ticket Network. If there is one in your area closest to you and you want to make sure you can get tickets for this upcoming season, check it out.
Absolutely, man.
seahawkerspodcast.com/tickets. And this week on the show, we welcome on Ross Bell of the UK Seahawkers, the Pedestrian Podcast. Ross, how you doing?
Very well, gentlemen. Thanks for having me back on. It's a pleasure to be here.
Yes, and you just released on the Seahawkers Podcast website your far too early 53-man roster for 2017. I want to talk about that, but before we get there, Ross, we're talking about on the show today, we're making a case for a 16-0 season for the Seahawks. And I want to hear from you that if you're going to make a case, what does Seattle need to be able to do to be able to finish 16-0 this year?
Take out the Rams twice. Not falter there.
right. That's key. Got to be able to beat the Rams.
Exactly. The rest of the schedule, I think we can easily win all of our games in division if we beat the Rams twice. The Cardinals don't worry me. They're weaker than last year. And the Niners, I'm not on board this train that they're going to be any good. They're still a train wreck. They've got no offensive players. They've got a decent defense, but apart from that, it's all right. Our hardest games are going to be games that we're expected to win. That Jaguars game in early December could be a real tricky one. Early kickoff. They've got a good defense. Gus Bradley put together there before he was relieved of his duties. I want to say 16-0. I can't.
See, you know what? I think you nailed this, Ross, because that Jaguars game is going to come down to a field goal. And if we're counting on Blair Walsh, who you have on your 53-man roster, that could be. We could lose this game on a Blair Walsh field goal that keeps us from beating the Jaguars.
That would be awful. Remember last season, I put in the piece, remember how everyone got on Hauschka's back for the kicks he missed?
Right.
It's going to be even worse this year.
I think special teams is going to be key. So let's get into your 53-man roster projection, Ross, because I agree I like how you qualified it as far too early because we haven't been to training camp yet. But I like what you've put together here so far. And I guess we'll start off with quarterback because Russell Wilson, Trevon Boykin seems pretty obvious. Did you struggle at all with throwing in Austin Davis ahead of Trevon Boykin?
In the interest of complete full disclosure, I completely forgot about Austin Davis until after I'd finished this entire piece.
That sounds just right, actually. That's exactly the amount of attention you need to give Austin Davis.
I think they gave him enough money to make him a camp body and to give a bit of competition, but I think Boykin, he perfectly mirrors what Russ can do, and he's, as long as he's got no more skeletons to come this off season, then yeah, Boykin's going to be the backup, and obviously Russ is one of the best quarterbacks in the league, so they put themselves on that list really.
And I also like how you nailed the order of the running backs.
This is my favorite part of his list right here,
because it's Thomas Rawls, Eddie Lacy, CJ Prosise, and Alex Collins, and clearly CJ Prosise being the third down back, but having Thomas Rawls of Eddie Lacy, I know you like that, Adam.
Oh, yeah, absolutely, because it's correct. And that's what I like the most about it. So congratulations, Ross, for nailing it.
Thank you. I'm with Brandon a little bit. I like the Lacy signing. I think he's a very good running back in this league, but he's not Thomas Rawls. Rawls got the blessing from Marshawn to be the next man, and just look at that Lions game last season. Dominated.
Well, moving on to tight end and fullback, this is where this could get controversial for you, Ross, because you have a player here who's not even on the team. But
Yep.
Jimmy Graham, Luke Wilson, Nick Vannett as the three clear tight ends, and then Marcel Reese is fullback. And probably the best option, but not currently on the team. Maybe he's one of those guys that gets picked up in training camp.
Yeah, he's still hanging around out there. No one else has got him, and I really liked what he did last season, late on, especially in the playoffs. He just gave Russ another option when he was desperate, when he was getting clobbered by defensive linemen all the time. Reese always seemed to be there, and he's got that speed still. Even as later in his career, he can still make a difference.
Now with the wide receivers. Mm-hmm. This is one of the areas that we kind of targeted when we were talking last week, is having some interesting questions, definitely some competition. The guys you have listed, Doug Baldwin, Tyler Lockett, Paul Richardson, Jermaine Kearse. I feel like those four are locks to make this team. Yeah. And people would argue that maybe Kearse isn't, but those four to me seem like locks. Then you have Amara Darboh and Tanner McAvoy. How did you decide on those final two?
I think you've got to go with Darboh because of where he was drafted this year. That's quite a high pick to just stick on the practice squad. And I'm just a big Tanner McAvoy fan. I thought when he was involved last season, he was involved in big ways and he made good catches and also threw for a touchdown, which is nice to have as that little surprise package play. But the first four, I think they're locked in. I want to see Richardson make the step up. I know Stu on our pod's a massive fan of P. Rich, and I think he can make that third position his own this season.
Talk to me a little bit about Darboh, because that's a guy that when I look at the way that he played in college, at least a little bit that I could find online, I'm not gonna lie, I'm not impressed. Is this somebody that sticks out to you as far as talent is concerned, or is it just solely because he was drafted highly that you have him up there?
I think it's mainly down to his draft position. I've got him as the fifth on the depth chart at the minute, but that's only because of McAvoy's. He had surgery, didn't he, this offseason? That's kind of, Pete didn't sound too enthusiastic when he talked about him, but I think McAvoy's probably the fifth, and then Darboh's probably the sixth, competing with guys like Lawler and the other guys that we've got around the practice squad at the minute. But I think it's solely down to where he was drafted, yeah.
Yeah, I think Kason Williams would have a pretty good case for making this team this year. A guy who's been on the outskirts of just making it on the Seahawks roster at wide receiver, and he's going to be competing for one of those spots. I think Darboh is, just by the fact that he played in a pro-style offense, he might have a little bit of a step up on some of the other guys, some of the other rookies coming in. That's a big part of why seeing the preseason and seeing some of the news coming out of training camp is going to be kind of critical with that. But
yeah,
those are definitely still to me the two of the big spots to watch. Now, moving on to offensive line, I liked how you put a little dig in here for Adam, listing George Fant first on the depth chart.
Yeah, no, I saw that.
And you kind of go left to right, George Fant, Luke Jokel, Justin Britt, Mark Lewinsky, Jermaine Ifedi as the five guys as the starters. Then for the backups, Jordan Roos Ethan Posick, Ode Ibushi, and Reese Odiambo. And Jordan Roos, one of the guys who we really haven't talked about much, but a player on the offensive line that the Seahawks kind of called out as being very happy that they were able to get him as an undrafted free agent, and one guy who most possibly could be among the starting offensive linemen.
Yeah, you can't count any of these guys out from starting because there's 9, 10, 11 guys we've got on the roster currently. It could be any 5 apart from Britt, who's probably the only one with a nailed down position at the minute. We don't know where Jokel's going to play. We kind of think Fant's going to start at left tackle, but it wouldn't be out of the realm of possibility for Jokel to go back to left tackle and Fant to be on the bench with Odiambo playing in there as well. Glowinski looked good last season. Moving him over to the right side makes sense if you can get Afedi back to his natural position at right tackle. There's 9 guys to fit 5 from them. Like Adam said last week, if you can nail 2 of those positions down with Britt already being a guaranteed starter, we're going to be infinitely better than we were last year.
I don't think we can even count out the idea of Britt moving, because I can't put it past Tom Cable to go, you know what, let's move him back to guard. Let's
he's going to make him left tackle next. Right. And he's going to move Fant to center. Yeah, absolutely, because the Britt progression is not complete until you've played all spots randomly on the offensive line.
I did like the pickup of Ibushi as well, and Odiambo's got that really good versatility along with Posick that they can both they can fill in multiple positions. I'm sure Tom Cable's a massive fan of that.
In terms of guys that you seem to hear most about, this seems like the right 9, whether or not plugging them into the, where they end up being plugged into. That's something that we get to be surprised about week 1, I think. That's
going to draw them out of a hat, I think.
Yeah, all I know is if Ross does nail the starting 5 in this right now, go buy a lottery ticket, man, because you are clairvoyant. Like there's no way. I just... try to predict what's going to happen on that offensive line as far as who the final 5 starters are going to be and where they're going to play.
Yeah.
I mean, it is about the most random thing that I could think of. I mean, nobody can predict Tom Cable's mind on this.
No.
All
right. Well, moving on to the defensive side of the ball, a lot of these spots, like you point out, are pretty easy groups to pick. Defensive end, Michael Bennett, Cliff Averill, Frank Clark, Malik McDowell, and Cassius Marsh. And the one thing I want to talk about here, clearly, Ross, you have a thing for Cassius Marsh.
I'm a big Cassius Marsh fan. He gave us the greatest gift of last season, that face mask in air quotes on the Rams. But I think he's a very versatile player and he's looked good as a pass rusher. But I also think he could be in the shout for the other outside linebacker position. Possibly,
yeah, I was gonna ask you about that. Why you plugged him in on the defensive end spot as opposed to linebacker? Yeah,
the linebackers they're bar the starting 2, the rest of them are a bit of a mismatch at the minute. So I could see Cassius moving back a little bit because, like I say, he's got the athleticism to play there if need be. But yeah, I like that 5 as the pass rushers. They can all play pretty much anywhere on that line. And Frank Clark has had a good season last season. He's on for a monster year this year.
Defensive tackle, you have Jaron Reed, Ataba Rubin, Quentin Jefferson, and Nazir Jones. And I think that one's pretty self-explanatory. Is there anybody here, Adam, that we're missing at defensive tackle that should be in this group?
I don't think so. I mean, I think, like you said, it's a little self-explanatory. I mean, the draft picks have made sense. As far as they've spent the draft capital to try to get guys in there to do that, whether that's Jefferson or Reed and I mean, you'll see McDowell play inside a little bit, but obviously he's going to be listed more on the outside. So
yeah, these are going to be your run stopping guys, with Quentin Jefferson maybe being the one guy that can rush the passer a little bit. We saw that breakdown this week, Adam, that Samuel Gold did on Jaron Reed.
Yes.
Was there anything that jumped out at you from that video in particular that made sense to you or maybe was missed?
I don't think anything was missed. What I liked about the breakdown is when he was breaking down his ability for pass rush, talking about his struggles being just hand technique for the most part, and that being the biggest issue that he had. And when you talk about a guy that has that kind of size and physicality and athletic talent, when you tell me that the only thing keeping him from becoming better is some technique, I love that idea, because there's no better team in the league that coaches up D tackles than the Seahawks do. I mean, we've totally crushed it in that area over the last few years. So I think that that is a very encouraging sign that really his biggest deficiency when it came to rushing the passer was a technique thing, and that is something that we can definitely clean up with him.
The other thing that was cool to see was his ability to kind of to take on two blockers when the Seahawks needed him to, and the video pointed that out really well of some of the techniques that defensive linemen use to be able to occupy two blockers on the offensive line without maybe even necessarily putting a hand on one of them.
Right. I was listening to another Seahawks podcast earlier this week, and they're really down on Reed, thinking that he may only play on first down because he just can't do anything and blah, blah, blah. Dude, he's soaking up two guys. What else do you want him to do? Soak up four?
Right.
Like, I mean, he's one guy. Like, and he's taking on two dudes. That seems pretty awesome to me.
Yeah. Well, kind of filling that Brandon Mebane type role. Mebane really seemed to get a lot more push into the backfield. And we did see it in some cases with Reed, but definitely there is a difference between those two players. But something, he's a rookie. This is just his second year. We give him some time. All right, let's move on to linebackers. We got Bobby Wagner, KJ Wright, Michael Wilhoit, Arthur Brown, and Kevin Pierre-Louis and Ross. Two new names here, Michael Wilhoit, Arthur Brown, of the hundreds of linebackers the Seahawks have signed in this offseason. We narrowed it down to two of the new ones to make the final roster.
Yeah, we seem to pick up every available linebacker there was this offseason. I don't know if you saw this week, I was furious at the NFL.com's list of best linebacking groups, and the Seahawks didn't feature at all. Bobby Wagner on his own is better than some of the groups they featured in their top five. Yeah. You add KJ Wright to that mix, who should be a Pro Bowler, should be an All-Pro. Those two are phenomenal. It's just to find someone who can do a serviceable job as the other tackle, the other linebacker. I think Will Hoyt probably has the edge coming into the season because of he would have played a fairly similar role with the 49ers before. KPL didn't really impress me too much last season, and Arthur Brown is a kind of a meh player for me. Mm-hmm. But it's 1 from 3 definitely on that other position.
Yeah, KPL at this point seems to be that special teams guy. He has his position locked in on special teams. He can play linebacker in a pinch. And going back to what you said about the top linebacking cores, Bobby Wagner, KJ Wright, those two guys, they finished in the top 10 in terms of tackles. We had two linebackers that finished in the top 10 in the league at making tackles, and we can't make it doesn't matter who we have in the third spot.
I think Bobby finished 20 tackles ahead of the person in second place. He was an absolute phenom last year, and he's only going to get better because he's still really young.
So yeah, I don't know how we don't make that list either. You can put in Adam at linebacker, and I feel like we should.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we're still a top 10 at that point. And they'd cart me off after one play.
Moving on to safety. Now, you kept 5 linebackers, and I think where, sometimes it seems like the Seahawks traditionally keep about 6, but I think it makes sense at safety to keep 5 guys where traditionally maybe there had been 4, because you do have some of that flexibility in the size, particularly with Cam Chancellor, Bradley McDougall. And so you have Earl Thomas, Cam Chancellor, Bradley McDougall, Tedrick Thompson, and Delano Hill as your 5 safeties. Again, this makes a lot of sense to me. You got the top 2 rookies making the list along with one of our top free agent acquisitions of the offseason.
Yeah, but McDougall is a really excellent pickup, a starter for Tampa Bay in previous seasons, and he can add. He's a massive step up over the backups we had last season. Thomas and Chancellor obviously are the best 2 safeties in the league, so there's no way they're going anywhere. And yeah, Thompson, Stu is really high on him on our podcast. He thinks he's going to make a really big impact in this league, and yeah, Hill has got some upside as well. So it's a very good group this year.
We agree on that one because I'm big on Tedrick Thompson. I just think that's a guy that has all the skill in the world, has the right attitude. I loved that pick in the draft, and I was super stoked to see him on the list.
And finally, at corner, Richard Sherman, of course, Deshaun Shedd, who you have listed as a potential PUP candidate, physically unable to perform. He could start the season on that list. Then you have Jeremy Lane, Shaquille Griffin, Nico Thorpe, and Mike Tyson. Griffin and Tyson, the 2 rookies from the draft class, and then Nico Thorpe, who he played last year primarily on special teams, but we did see him play a little bit of corner toward the end of the season once Deshaun Shedd went down. Who do you like as the opposite corner, Ross? If Shedd starts the season on PUP?
I heard your show last week, and I heard the Jeremy Lane love. I emailed into your show 2 or 3 times last season to talk about how much Jeremy Lane was frustrating me. As an outside cornerback opposite Sherman, I would go with Griffin. I know that's a big call for a rookie, but he has Sherman-like qualities and the size as well to be that number 2 corner. Lane does a very good job in the slot, and that's an important position, but we may play more with the in the nickel defense as well. So I think you give it to Griffin. I think you just go with the rookie, go with the hot hand and the player that has the most upside in this position.
Are you as high on Griffin to the point that Deshaun Shedd may not have a job once he gets back, or do you think Griffin could hold that spot down until he gets off the POP?
I think it definitely until Shedd comes back, because Shedd was phenomenal last season. He's got obviously a contract to play for, so he's going to want to come back and prove that he's worth whatever money he wants to get paid. He's an excellent open field tackler, Shedd, so that's a big plus, because he's going to get whoever's opposite Sherman's going to get challenged a lot. It's a tough call, but we're in a very good position going forward that we can afford to let Shedd leave if he doesn't have a great season, because we got Griffin there as well.
Yeah, and it'd be super exciting if Griffin was able to take that starting quarter job right out of the gate as far as until Shedd comes back, because that means that he really did get the technique and the defense down very quickly, because it's not going to be a question of his physical tools and his size. And like you mentioned, Ross, the idea that he is Sherman-esque in the sense that, size and speed. Boy, having 2 guys out there that are like that instead of Jeremy Lane would be awesome. Now, just in my opinion, I think that's a lot to learn. And so I have a feeling the veteran will be the guy that they try to stick out there first. But man, if it does happen the other way, that's a huge coup. But the other thing is you got Sherman penciled in there. And I don't know if you heard Chris Richard say this last week in his press conference, that even his job's up for grabs. So that's no certainty right there. He could be slipping. You don't know.
Where's my clickbait sounder? I think
that would be the biggest shock of all if Sherman didn't start the season.
Big time.
Well, or if he gets traded, that could still happen.
Well, yeah, I'd 2 first-round picks. I wouldn't be averse to it.
Neither would Sherman, apparently.
No.
All right. Well, closing it out, special teams. We mentioned Blair Walsh, of course, John Ryan, and then Tyler Ott. You have as long snapper. I don't know if that's worthy of any discussion.
Yes, it is. Please, God, let it not be Blair Walsh at the start of the season. Like, almost find a Grammatica brother. There's got to be another one out there that can still kick. Like anybody, please.
I was mainly speaking of Tyler Ott, getting that final spot, but yeah. Mr. Freeze is still a candidate for the long snapper, Adam.
Yeah, doesn't need to be. I'll take Tyler out there. And boy, howdy, if we could bring in the Grizz kicker, the great Dan Carpenter, I would be stoked about that.
All right, Ross. Well, really wanted to thank you for coming on. People can check out the Pedestrian Podcast. I have a link to it in the show notes. And if you check out the blog page there's a link to the Pedestrian Podcast. And also you can follow Ross on Twitter at RossBell1984. Ross, thanks again for coming on.
Thanks, gents. Go Hawks.
Go Hawks.
Go Hawks.
Coming back from the break, thanks to Ross Bell for coming on the show this week and talking about his preview of what he thinks the 53-man roster should look like going into training camp. And also be sure, if you're not a member of the Seahawkers, check out Seahawkers.org. A lot of new chapters there. I think there's even some new ones since the last show we did. So Seahawkers.org, see if there's a chapter near you. And Adam, there's one thing that caught my attention during the break that I knew you would enjoy.
Okay.
Pepsi. They have a new Pepsi. Pepsi Fire.
Are you serious? Pepsi Fire? What is it, made of lava? Like how is it Pepsi Fire? Like what's so hot about this?
It's cinnamon flavored soda.
Oh, gross.
But the reason why I liked it so much is because I know how down you are on the fire emoji. And they actually made the little Pepsi logo kind of into a little fiery logo.
Okay, so they use the word fire instead of a fire emoji? Like they actually spell it out like a person, like an adult?
They do, yeah.
Okay, I'll give them some credit there, because going back to Bleacher Report and their stinking obsession, I literally got 5, what do they call those badge alerts that pop up on your home screen, right, when your phone's off, in a row from Bleacher Report. Every one of them ended with fire. Like Draymond Green talks trash about LeBron James. Fire. Big Baller's new shoes. Fire. Fire, 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 fire.
Bleacher Report
God.
loves their fire.
Catfish!
I'm fired up about their love of fire. I'll tell you that.
Yeah. You are fired up. You know who is on fire, though? The Bennett brothers. And it was cool to see them get recognized this last week at the BET Awards. I don't know if you saw this, but they got the 2017 BET Shine a Light Award for their off-field work with youth in minority communities.
Oh, very cool, man. And that's recognition well-deserved, because if there's one thing you can say about the Bennett brothers, they put their money where their mouth is.
Absolutely. And you hear Michael Bennett even talk about how he could take all kinds of sponsorships from fast food companies, but he is so anti-fast food and pro-health that he turns down those endorsements because he wants to promote healthy eating.
Correct. And I think when you can stand on your principles like that, I think that's a huge indicator of the type of person that you are. No doubt about it.
But, there's the people out there. There's the stick to sports crowd, Adam, that, if Michael Bennett and his brother weren't, if they were just sticking to sports, they wouldn't be recognized for some of these off the field activities.
Yeah. Stick to sports and do less good in your communities and stuff.
Yeah.
You selfish jerks. I don't want to be bothered with that.
If it's past Thursday at about noon Seattle time, training camp tickets were on sale and then they were sold out. So I can go ahead and preview that right now. Even though it's not quite Thursday yet.
Yes.
Also, the Chiefs are interviewing the Seahawks co-director of player personnel, Scott Fitterer, after they fired their general manager this last week.
Oh, okay. Well, I guess that's something there. I'm not surprised that Fitterer is somebody that is high on people's radar. That's a guy I don't want to lose from the front office. I think he's a very talented talent evaluator. So as long as nobody else takes his talent, and I can find another way to say talent here in a minute, that would be mean more talent for our front office. So no, I just seriously, I think he's a very amazing guy at his job, and no surprise to me that he's being considered to run the show himself in different organizations.
Well, you still have your talented other co-director of player personnel in Trent Kirshner. So
yes,
they would just maybe cease to be co-directors.
Yes.
If he goes to the Chiefs.
I guess so.
And I saw in the news this last week, Vernon Davis credits Cam Chancellor for the hardest hit he's ever taken.
I'm not sure that I needed Vernon Davis to confirm that. I saw him leave the football field airborne with my very own eyes. I could have told you that straight up, that was easily the hardest hit that he had ever taken. A legal hit, I might add, that Cam Chancellor was flagged for no reason. Still mad about that
because it was so violent looking.
It was not looking. It was violent, but legal.
Yeah, apparently he was at a Boys and Girls Club chapter in Greater Washington because now he's playing for DC, and he was asked that question of the hardest hit he's ever taken, and of course he thought back to the Cam Chancellor hit.
Well, the fact that he can still remember it, I think, is a good thing.
All right, well, moving on, a couple of welcome to the flock.
Yeah, buddy. All right.
So welcome this week to Gordon Browning. Welcome with his $1 a month pledge at getintheflock.com. Also, Cameron Cole, he upped his pledge to take up one of the last remaining slots on the active 53. So Cameron Cole joining us in the Ring of Honor this week.
You betcha. Welcome, man.
And also a big thanks to Danny King for a one-time donation. He went to seahawkerspodcast.com/support and put us in for a one-time PayPal donation and passed along a short note that he's enjoying the show from the UK. So thanks to Danny.
Awesome. Thank you so much, man.
And also a couple reviews this week. I want to shout out to those who gave us reviews. This one in the UK iTunes store, Johnny Cashmere says, simply the best Seahawks pod available on iTunes. To get the absolute best from them, make sure you're following their Patreon as well. That's right. Getintheflock.com.
That's right.
Go Hawks, and also check out the Pedestrian Podcast. I'm definitely not a host of that. So I wonder if Johnny Cashmere is a host of the Pedestrian Podcast.
But what I can say is that is one of the best usernames I've heard in a long time. Johnny Cashmere.
Is that a reference to?
It's got to be a play on Johnny Cash. And that which is great, So I think that's amazing there. I did want to say, Brandon, I'm feeling a little dismayed.
What?
I'm feeling a little dismayed. And it's
Why?
because, we had this goal of getting 300 patrons signed up by the beginning of the season, and I don't see any way it's going to happen now.
It is the end of June. We still have July and August.
We have amazing dudes like Cameron and Gordon who come through this week and donate and get in the flock. And I mean, that's awesome. And I'm not taking anything away from that, but 2 or 3, man, you're not picking up 120 by the beginning of the season, at that pace. So it's fine. I'll just give up on our dreams. It's no big deal.
Oh, you sound so dejected.
I am dejected, man.
We do have 120 to make up by the start of the season. We haven't talked about this formally on the show yet, but I wonder if it'll make a difference to people who really enjoy the All 32 Picks and IPAs episode.
Okay.
Because we've made a decision here.
Yes.
Because Jared is going to be out of pocket for this season, that we are going to discontinue the All 32 Picks and IPAs podcast, but we've talked about this, and we are going to continue it as bonus episodes. That's right.
So, I mean, all you really have to do to get that is what was it? It's $1 a month, right?
$1 a month.
So $1, and how is that? It's only 100 pennies, right? It's just a few, but I understand. I mean, most of our listeners right now, I mean, the ones that haven't gotten in the flock yet, I mean, they're just too selfish right now to give up $1 a month. And so, I mean, that's fine. They can keep that. It's no big deal.
But yes, $1 a month gets you in, and we will continue the Pick'em League. And then it will be a patron Pick'em League where you get all of our picks throughout the season. And Adam and I will talk about it as part of our bonus content.
Absolutely. It'll be really fun. But do sign up just for the pick show, or our picks each and every week. I think that's really fun. I hope that everybody nominates me for an Oscar for my really great acting job 2 seconds ago about feeling super dejected and calling everybody selfish. I was trying guilt this week. Well,
you bring up a pretty good point, because it is award season, and the podcast awards are going to be taking nominations starting July 1st. So people can go to podcastawards.com and they can nominate us for a People's Choice Podcast Award. And we were among the finalists last year. So I expect to be competing for the title once again with the fantasy footballers. And I think we can take them down this year because they changed the rules.
Exactly. They changed it so that it is a more equitable playing field. And I think that gives us an excellent chance of winning this, Brandon, because the quality of this show is straight up excellence. That's what it is. And so all those folks that, I mean, if you don't want to get in the flock and do the Patreon thing, I totally get it. If you don't want to do that, do this. Get us nominated, man. Fill out the form. Do your thing. Doesn't cost you any dough. Because you enjoy it. You're listening right now. You like this stuff. I don't know why, but you do. So just do that.
Yes, if it's after July 1st and you're listening to this, go to podcastawards.com and put in the Seahawkers podcast for a nomination.
If you would like. It's very appreciated if you think us worthy of those sort of things.
Indeed. So another review here from Hector Delgadillo. And this was a U.S. iTunes review. Should have done this years ago. Well, the Seahawks were a blessing. In the 6th grade, all of my friends had a football team, and it was time for me to choose mine. I sure as hell didn't want to be a Raiders, Rams, Cowboys, or 49ers fan like everyone in L.A. I'm a big L.A. Dodgers fan. Our rivals are the San Francisco Giants, and I dislike the Arizona Diamondbacks. Little did I know there was an NFL team that wears blue and has San Francisco and Arizona as division rivals. That's when I knew I belonged in the 12 family. Great podcast. You two do an outstanding job. Agree with Adam 95% of the time.
Ooh, all right.
Anyways, keep up the...
He must not agree with you ever then, Brandon.
No. I bet he disagrees with you on George Fant. That's in the 5%.
You never know. He could disagree with me on other things. He may wholeheartedly agree that George Fant is the worst left tackle in all of football.
I think we need to hear from Hector on this just to find out his stance.
Right.
But 95% for you is yes, that's a really good ratio.
Yeah, that, you know what I know about Hector after hearing that? His thinking is real clear and smart.
Oh my gosh, seeing Hector's name reminded me we have other members of the flock, so you don't have to be down the fact that there was just a couple. Hector joined the flock.
Heck.
Yeah.
How'd you miss that?
I don't know.
Okay.
But Hector's in the flock. He's going to be in a Ring of Honor. I sent him an invite. I haven't seen him show up yet. But see, he can tell us right in the Ring of Honor then of where he disagrees with you in that 5%.
I'd like that. Okay. Well, accept your invitation, Hector, and let me know. Let me know what it is that you don't agree with me on. And you'll probably be wrong, but that's cool. You can definitely let me know.
So also welcome to the flock to Hector, and then Jonathan Stein. He also moved into one of those final slots of the Ring of Honor. He moved up from the $3 level to $6 a month. So thanks to Jonathan.
Yeah, that's super cool, man. I mean, you think about that. That's a complete double up on how much that he's donating, and I think that's amazing.
It's really cool. So thanks everybody who left us iTunes reviews. Thanks to our new members of the flock. All right, moving on. Do better and better at life.
All right, Brandon. My do better this week is for the evil hoodied one himself, Bill Belichick.
Yes.
Because Bill Belichick
wait a second. Bill Belichick does not need to do better. We want him to do considerably worse.
Oh, no, he needs to do better because this isn't about any of his football things. This is about him, the man, right now.
Okay.
Bill Belichick has been hanging out with Tom Brady too much because Tom Brady's propensity to star in very douchey commercials and douchey magazine shoots and like styly douchey things has now rubbed off on the hoodie.
No way.
So this month in the upcoming issue of Nantucket Magazine, which is just entitled N Magazine. Does that not sound like the most pretentious magazine on the face of the planet just right there? Nantucket Magazine. Like, just unbelievable. Just to start there. Bill Belichick is featured in a photo shoot with his girlfriend, Linda Holiday. And a few of the photos have been leaked. They've come out, and they are every bit as douchey as this entire thing sounds. I can't say the word douchey enough to describe all of this. He even cracked a smile in a couple pictures, Braden. That is not who he is. That is not who he is. And look, the whole idea that he took the time out of his life to do this, maybe his girlfriend was really into this and really wanted him to do it. But man, this breaks from the image that is the hoodie. I don't like it at all. And Bill Belichick needs to do better.
I went to go look for these photos, and all I see is Bill Belichick sleeping on a ferry ride on the Nantucket Ferry. All
right. Well, the cover is like him and Chica, like, and it's it's one of your typical like coupley wedding poses that's done. Another one, they're sitting on the tailgate of what looks like about a 1976 Jeep Wagoneer. You know what Bill Belichick doesn't own? A 1976 Jeep Wagoneer. It's one of the old ones with the woody sides and all that. Like, trying to play up the whole Nantucket angle.
Oh, yeah, I do see the photo now. Bill Belichick's in a suit. See, he should be in a hoodie. That's his trademark look.
That's what I'm saying. He's not being himself, man.
He's slipping.
This is all Tom Brady's fault.
This is good news. It means Belichick is slipping mentally enough that he's now making poor decisions off the field.
Right. And look, this is not only Tom Brady's fault, but by proxy, this is Gisele's fault because Gisele's the one that made Tom Brady start doing UGG stuff and like things like in that weird mattress commercial that looks like it came out of Eyes Wide Shut, the movie. Like it's just bizarre. Where he like walks in and there's just an empty mattress in the middle of like an empty room, and he's like, "Do you need anything else, sir?" And he's like, "No, I've got everything I need." So weird.
Don't go watch that movie. If you hear that, do not go watch that.
Eyes Wide Shut? Weird.
It's a weird movie.
Weird. Yeah, it's Kubrick. That's all you need to know.
Well, and I think maybe this is the photo you were describing it's Belichick and his lady in a field and Belichick's kind of looking off to the right of the camera, very squinty. Yes. And I don't know if that's a smile or if he's just squinting because of the sunlight that's causing the corners of his mouth to trend upward a little bit.
I think he's squinting because he's watching his dignity leave him out in that field.
That could be. Very well could be. I think this is a good sign.
Okay.
Poor decision making. Mm-hmm. The more poor decisions we have from Belichick, the better.
Yeah. This is clearly not in his wheelhouse on this one.
All right, Adam. My do better this week is for you, Adam Emmert. You are my do better.
Oh, no. Okay. What did I do?
Our high school reunion, our 20-year high school reunion is coming up in the first week of July.
Yeah.
And you have told me that you are not attending this.
No.
You only have one 20-year reunion.
Cool.
And I know you weren't at our 10-year reunion, but
yep.
And apparently Stephanie can't drag our friend Chad out from Seattle for this either. But I need you there.
Why?
I need you there, man.
Dude, I talk to you every week. I know what's going on with you. I don't need a reunion to catch up. I know how your life's been.
You know what I need? I need Summer on my side. Summer, if you are listening to the show, I need your help on this. Tell me that you're coming out, and maybe you can be like our hype woman, like Flavor Flav was, the ultimate hype man for Public Enemy.
Look, man, there's not one part of my being that has any desire to go back up to Kalispell and mingle with a bunch of people I haven't seen in 20 years who I don't even know, and just to notice that everybody from our class has just swelled. Like, I just said, no thanks, I'll pass. I got other things to do. There's rivers to float. There's trails to ride my motorcycle on, man. Like, I got things to do this summer. I cannot be bothered with catching up with a bunch of people that don't care to, catch up with me either. And I don't blame them. I'm not that interesting.
They've built Adam Emmert and Adam Emmert activity right into the schedule. We are floating. We're floating.
No, you're not. No, you're not. Well, I guess technically you are, but the Far West cruise ship around Flathead Lake is not my idea. No. I'm taking the raft down a river through rapids and catfish. Like, I'm going to have fun. And I'm going to drink beer while doing it. And I don't have to be around a crowd of people. Around a crowd of people that I didn't really even get along that great with 20 years ago. Meh.
Adam Emmert, for not being there for me. Do better.
It's not my fault you're going, dude. You do better. Don't go. Come rafting with me.
I have people I want to see.
I'm right here. Who else?
Who else is there?
Yeah.
I know. Well, Chad and Stephanie aren't coming either. That does put a damper on the other people that I know who would be there.
Yeah, like the only people that not that I'm dogging everybody from my class. Like, there's lots of good people, but I mean, there's only a few people that I were particularly close to. I've seen all those people on a fairly regular basis, or if I really cared, I would go and seek them out individually.
I don't think you've seen Summer except on our Google Hangouts.
Well, we've caught up. I've talked to her, had conversations.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
All right, on to Better at Life.
All right. My Better at Life this week, Brandon, is for BGR.com. You say, what the heck is BGR.com?
What the heck is BGR.com?
I honestly don't know. But they're some sort of newsy website. Looks like they have a lot of different things that they cover. Looks like a lot of sciencey things. And we've talked a lot about clickbait headlines lately.
Yeah.
And how there's been a lot of really terrible ones. I want to point out clickbait headlines at its finest.
Ooh.
This is how it's done. This is exactly what you should write, to write a clickbait headline and not be a jerk about it. Like, this is beautiful. Here's the headline, Brandon, because it involves science too. So you plug both those things together.
Right,
and this
right
is
in your wheelhouse. I understand.
Right in my wheelhouse. NASA wants to probe Uranus in search of gas.
Uh-huh.
You cannot not click on that. There's no way. NASA wants to probe Uranus in search of gas. I got it.
Click.
It shouldn't be hard. That should be an easy find. Like, yeah. I mean, because it is a gas giant. So you think that Uranus.
Have you learned nothing from Neil deGrasse Tyson? I think I was on one of his things that I watched recently that he said after about the age of 8, you stop referring to it as Uranus and call it Uranus.
Oh, who made him? Who made him the guy that gets to decide how a few letters put together are pronounced? Look, he already took Pluto away from us.
Right.
He can't take Uranus away from us too. And I haven't grown up past 8.
Clearly.
It's an awesome headline, man. I cracked up for at least a solid 10 minutes over that.
That reminds me, I went to see Cars 3 this last weekend with my nephew and my girls. Mm-hmm. And in the previews, there was a Uranus joke, and 2 poop jokes, and all in the previews leading up to the Cars movie. So I thought it was well done.
Were you sold at that point?
I'm going to see all those movies.
There you go. All right.
Yeah. All right. My Better at Life this week is for Ryan Holton Murphy, who realized an incredible dream here recently. And Ryan met the woman of his dreams. And not only was she the woman of his dreams in terms of her personality and that, but she also had the last name Packer. And the cool thing is that Ryan decided that since his wife had the ultimate last name, with Ryan being a huge Packers fan, that he was going to take his wife's name, and now there's a sign of the two of them after their wedding. It says "Meet the Packers," and
that's pretty stupendous.
That to me is worthy of making our bet. Even though he has a terrible taste in NFL football teams, the fact that he knows what he likes and that he's willing to change his last name to meet his fandom makes him better at life than Skip Bayless.
Oh, completely concur. Well done. I mean, dude, he probably fell in love instantly, right? Like that has to be their story. Like that had to have been love at first hearing of last name.
Yeah. One of the few cases.
Absolutely. That's pretty amazing. So basically what you're telling me, Brandon, to get a nomination from you to get off your do better list and get on the better at life than Skip Bayless list is I need to find a woman with the last name Seahawk.
Yes.
Or Hawks. That'd be easier to come by.
Or just Hawk. And then you could have Meet the Hawks.
Meet the Hawks. Okay. So, Any cool Seahawk fan girls listen to the podcast with the last name Hawk? Like,
let Adam know.
Let me know. Hit me up.
Adam at SeahawkersPodcast.com. Make it happen.
Make it happen. Who needs Tinder?
Right. All right, Adam. Well, I think that does it for the show this week. Again, thanks to Ross Bell for coming on the show. And we put another off-season episode down into MP3 format this off-season. It's a good thing.
Look, I checked up on this, Brandon, and there is only one other Seahawks podcast that has stayed current through the month of June. Everybody else has fallen off for a month or so. And I'm looking at you, Ross. Like you guys are one of them.
Calling you out.
Yeah. But with that said, we are amazing, man. We stuck through this week in, week out for the most part, but far more consistent. We
don't give ourselves enough credit generally. And we're giving ourselves credit here in this case.
Damn, I'm so proud. A button off my shirt's about to pop off my chest right now.
That's true. I can tell.
Just proud. So, we made it through. Great week, Brandon. Well, it was so week, but we did it anyway, so that makes it a great week. And I think with that,
there's only one thing left to say.
Go Hawks.
Go Hawks.